I still for about 99% of the time, I don't talk to anybody. I've taught fair cloth. I talk to about like techniques and stuff, but I still live up to my name, The Natural, and I don't know of anybody else really for sure that does that. Most guys research pretty hard. I still, man, those bombs I have, I'm telling you, it's just because I didn't quite figure it out. I just missed, you know, and until usually an area that I find, and I won't find enough areas, and then I'll get pounded by a bunch of other elite guys, and then I have nothing else. The guys that have advantage, maybe research, they have other stuff. If that gets beat up, they usually have other avenues they can go to and still catch them decent. But sometimes I can't get enough going, and I usually, those are the ones I bomb in. But usually I start off, you know, water clarities, you know, number one. You see what kind of water it looks like. You know, a lot of times I don't know what lake looks like till I actually get there in the morning and launch the boat. But watercolor and clarity, water temperature is big, time of year, weather a week before the tournament. That's what I will do. I will like a week before a tournament start watching the weather like every day, a couple times a day sometimes. I watch winds. And I don't do any logs and stuff. I just kind of remember. And a lot of guys do log. They do log stuff, but if you look at it every day, a couple times a day, and I do, like when I get a week away from the next tournament, I'll start checking that. And you can check current and water flows if you want. But that just lets you know kind of like trade winds, and that can make a difference in some bodies of water. If the wind blows normally from the south, southeast most of the time, that will kind of position fish for you. And if you do get a wind shift, you know, you'll know that it'll scatter them. Like if the wind does, if all of a sudden it's blowing from the north or like an opposite or like a 80 degrees off, that will also change the way that fish hold on spots. And you know, a complete wind shift, a lot of times they'll just scatter them. Instead of being here, they might spread out, they might suspend it, but they might move to the other side, or that's kind of what I do best, is try to find, I usually find fish pretty good again, but that's normally because I really follow everything, the wind directions and the way the spot lays on the lake, but that's helped me a lot, probably because I haven't got help. I've always been kind of learning lakes myself, and it allows me to be really good at finding them. But and fishing these little lakes like Shasta and stuff, it is a small lake compared to most lakes we fish. It's helped me. I mean, all the different lakes I fish, it's helped me to when I do get to a lake now, no matter where I'm at, I know what kind of lake it is over the years of just fishing so many different lakes. But I'm trying to think what else.
Start deep or shallow?
Huge. It depends where I'm at. I mean, that's what I was going to get into. The biggest thing I look for in some lakes it's really hard to find is bait. I mean, some lakes we fish, you don't see bait. It's weird. It's like in the grass or it's too shallow. But I love lakes when I can start graphing and seeing balls of shad, and that's so easy for me to figure this out. 'Cause that's really, but I mean, half the time it's like that. We actually see big balls of shad, and you start to see the bigger shad, smaller shad, the white bass, all the different kinds of fish. That's when I kind of get all excited and I start, you know, looking, I kind of know what bass look like. But a lot of places we go, there's just like, you don't see bait. I mean, you'll see like 2 balls a day, and that makes it tough. But that's really like Mead lately. The last few opens we had, you could graph bait, which I mean that's where the fish were at. I mean you could if you just went fishing and started fishing, you wouldn't catch them until that bait was around. And then why fish? You know, why not just graph until you find a bait then fish? It made sense. But that's kind of how Lake Mead's been. It's actually got shad in it now, so you can actually graph shad. But as far as like some lakes I go to that you can't always graph them, and you can't find them that way. A lot of times you just gotta go fishing, which happens the other half of the time where you actually have to throw a bait and catch them. And then you got a lot of times I don't know what that lake's like and exactly what it's made of, and so I gotta figure out what they're gonna bite. And then once I figure out that, I gotta make sure that's what they're biting the best. And then once I figure that out, then you have to go fishing. And I do find a lot of my fish back east is casting a crankbait. I mean that's a really good search bait. Like, you know, some lakes I throw a spinner bait. You know, like Lake Mead, for instance. My number one search bait is usually a spinner bait, because if they're not going to hit, at least you'll see them come up on it and turn off, so I can locate them that way. But back east, it seems like the number one search bait is usually a crank, like a square bill. If you're out deeper, you know, get into the deep divers. And this time of year, back east, we're doing a lot of deep diving crankbaits. That's really big. Swim baits are good in the grass. If you got a lot of grass in the lake. You know, the spindle worm megabass makes a really good one. It's like the original, one of the original like swim baits, like the actual skinny. It's like this is like a skinny dipper, but they made it 20 years ago. It's called a spindle worm or the dippers. You know, the Kitex are good, and a lot of times we're putting those on a jig head, or just a Texas rig hook, depending on how snaggy your grass is. But that's a really good search bait for finding the grass. And this time of year, I imagine they probably hit a frog really good. I don't know if you guys catch smallies on frogs ever. Not really. Wonder why that is. I mean, I've caught a few on a frog, but usually a largemouth. But I'd say, I know I talked to Russ a little bit. The lakes around here, it sounds like I'd be throwing a lot of like dipper type baits, Kitex. That works really good in the grass. Probably top waters. But it depends where I'm at. It changes. If I had my choice, I mean, I know I crank more to find fish when I'm looking for them. And most of the time it's a square bill. And time of year is going to position the fish. You know, that's another thing I really try to figure out as quick as possible is what stage they're in. If they are in post-spawn, or if they're in late post-spawn, early post-spawn, if they're in summer pattern. And that tells me what size baits you're going to want. If they're going to want a big bait, a smaller bait, a fast bait, a slow bait, or a suspended bait. A lot of times the time of year will tell you that. But you know, it's not necessarily how our weather's been wacky. A lot of times you have to pay attention maybe when they're last spawning, or if there's any fish spawning still, or condition of the fish. When you do catch one, I mean, whenever I catch a fish, I'm paying attention to the mouth and their body to see what shape they're in. Their lips, post spawn will tell you if they've started getting thicker yet. When a fish is right after post spawn, he'll be at his thinnest. His mouth area is usually where it's easiest to tell, and that's when my hook will work really good. But the mouth will get thin, and that's why it's occasionally you have this flurries of losing fish and stuff. Is because they'll tear through their lip, and it's just their mouth's really weak. That's why in the spring, in early spring a lot when they're feeding good, you never lose them because it's like their lips are 3 times as thick. And my hook punches through it, never comes out. But as they get in that time of year, that's why this O'Shaughnessy would be killer for that. When the fish get the thin lips, and then you get to a time when you can look at a fish, and I'll look at him, I'll check him out, hold him, I'll push on his belly, whatever, I'll check his teeth out. When I first catch a fish on a lake, and check his tail out, and you can tell if he's spawned a month ago, or if he's on the upright, he's starting to get healthier. You can kind of tell their shoulders get a little thicker, their mouths get a little more cleaner looking, a little thicker, healthier. And so I check the fish out a lot. I look at them, and that tells me a little bit of the story. And usually, like you hear guys tell you, like every time you catch a fish, it's like it like tells you a story a little bit. Like each fish you catch builds your confidence basically, but each fish you catch also tells you kind of what's going on. And I got to do that back east without hooking too many too, which is really hard because you don't want to sit there and catch a bunch. And usually I try not to. A lot of guys don't too. And there's some guys that still go out there and catch them till the last day of practice, but that's not good either for me. That's why it's kind of hard. Is most of the time I'm fishing, I'm actually shaking them off. It's tough. I still love it though. I can't wait till the time the first day of tournament comes. That's when I can let it loose and start hooking them. But and probably most of you guys are probably tournament guys, and I believe in keeping the fish in the water. If you do hook one, especially if it's a nice one, I don't want to pull that fish out of the water at all. So I'll let him. If he pulls, I'll let him go. I'll let him just have his way, basically. And then when I get him tired out a little bit, I don't want to stress him out. Like when I hook a fish, I know it's a good one. I know I've caught some of the same fish in the past. Here and there, I do catch the same fish again. So if I catch a 3 or 4 or 5, 6 pounder, when a fish pulls, I let it go. I'll even free spool it and let him run. I don't want to stress him out. I don't want to feel like he's getting yanked to the boat and he's getting punished. And when I get in the boat, and usually they'll calm down, you get them worn out a little bit, and they'll kind of chill, and I'll kind of put my hand underneath them. I'll never pick them out of the water. If I have to get my pliers, and I'll usually not lip them either, I'll just hold them, and I'll get the pliers or my hand, get the hooks out, and just kind of lay them down and let them go. Please, buddy, again. Basically what you're saying.